what's we doing? We're back here with Ace Attorney Dual Destinies. Oh, that's such a fun title to say. Do you notice before we get in, number one, this is going to be so wild if we get to the end of this case and it like solves Blackwell's case from 7 years ago or however many years ago it was as well. It would be such an Ace Attorney thing to do, but it would also be pretty wild if it turned out that way. But if Blackwell suspects it's the same culprit, then it may well be. Who knows? But they also said that it didn't seem like he actually suspected Solomon of being the same culprit. So he's trying to draw out the real culprit, I guess, somehow. Or he's just distraught and doesn't know what he's doing. Who knows? And the other note I had is that streamer whose content I'm fond of by the name of Sarah Key of Kingdom Hearts fame, somewhat recently in the past few weeks did a live stream of the very first Ace Attorney, and I believe it was her first time playing, and I managed to tune in for that, and it was a lot of fun, so I just figured I would share that in case you're an Ace Attorney fan and or a Sarah Key fan, and there you go. I don't know if she's posted the VOD anywhere or what. Very good. Well, I find where I wrote all that down so I can cross out my notes. Last time, we finished up our first day of investigation over at the Yaxa space station, and Apollo has now decided that he's part of this for some reason. Go to bed, man. We're gonna reignite Operation Discourage Insanity, and when that inevitably fails, we're just gonna get into the trial day. I don't know if we'll be playing as Apollo for that. It depends on how this negotiation goes. But first, Apollo, I'm just trying to test your cognitive function here. Do you know what this is? When I became a lawyer, Clay was the first person I showed this badge to. He was so happy for me, it was like he just became a lawyer himself. You two were really great friends, weren't you? Yeah, but we were rivals too. We fought to see who would make their dream come true first. But no. Apollo. Clay. He finally became an astronaut just like he always wanted. How could this have happened just before his big launch? It's such a sad waste. I'll never forgive the person who murdered him. I completely understand why you feel that way, Apollo. But keep in mind, too, that our job as defense attorneys is to save our client. I know that. That's why No, never mind. Huh? What? This piece of evidence. Ouch! If I try to think, my head starts to hurt. You got hit really hard. That's your body telling you to take a rest. But I can't just lie in bed. Not when I have things to do for Clay's sake. I guess he's just not going to listen no matter what I say. But we are soon going to be rocketing into the court section, which is what I was mounting up to earlier, and then I lost my train of thought. Which is very exciting, because I've been, the last one at the school and this one so far have been, going much better than the other 4 cases in the game. No, other 3, sorry. I think I'll probably mention this again at the end review, but there's a decent chance it's because I was still in university during those first 3 cases that I wasn't able to apply as much brain power, and that's why I struggled with them so much, and I think that's unfair of me, and I feel regret at having been so unfair to them. We'll break it down later. We're just refamiliarize myself. What was our statement? The propelled a lighter. Oh, right, okay. Am I even allowed to move right now? I totally am. Let's not. Your injuries, Apollo. Go to bed. You shouldn't underestimate your injuries, Apollo, and I don't want you overdoing it. I'm fine. I'm not in pain anymore. And besides, they just gave me an IV at the clinic. An IV isn't a cure-all, mummy man. Anyway, just tell me how the case is going. Have you guys made any progress? A suspicious figure was spotted at the scene. We think they must be the real killer. A suspicious figure, huh? Right. I thought you'd be happier than that. Oh, don't get me wrong, I'm happy, and I fully intend to see Clay's murderer apprehended. Absolutely nothing will get in the way of that. But Clay was your best friend, right, Apollo? That's right. Best friend since junior high. I don't know what that means in Canadian speak. What's that, like grade 8? Sounds like me and Junie. So what was Clay like? Well, he was full of compassion and energy, and he had a really loud voice. So a lot like you. If the 2 of you did voice training together now, I bet you'd break a few windows. You know, I bet you're right. It seems like only yesterday. Clay was a guy who lived for his dreams. We used to talk about it a lot. He was going to be an astronaut, and me a lawyer. We'd talk well into the night, and even then we never grew tired of it. Apollo, about that jacket. Oh, it's Clay's. I knew it. It's a special jacket that was only issued to members of the Hat Project. He was finally able to get one of his own once he was selected for the Hat 2 mission. He always looked so proud wearing it. But just when his dream was finally coming true, I still can't... Damn it! It's not fair! Sorry, I should not skip that one that fast. Apollo, I hope you don't try to carry the burden all alone. I guess we were both unlucky. My own debut was a disaster. I guess you're right on some level. What, your attorney debut? I think you did pretty well. That trial a year and a half ago wasn't exactly the smoothest of starts. That was a rough time for me. But Clay refused to let me quit. You're fine, he'd say. Don't give up! It was right during his screening exams, too. He couldn't have become a full-fledged lawyer without him. That "you're fine" of his is why I'm still standing here today. You're fine, huh? I'm fine. You're fine and I'm fine were like your catchphrases, weren't they? Something like that. Sure brings back memories. When we were in junior high, Clay's mom passed away in an accident. But he wouldn't show his sadness to anyone. One night, I found him crying all alone in the school courtyard. Mom. Mom. Get away, Apollo. Don't come over here. Clay, listen to me. I don't have a mother either. Huh? I always think everybody else has a mom. Why am I the only one? But, you know, when I start to feel that way, I yell at the top of my lungs. I holler, "I'm fine!" And then, you know what? I start to feel like maybe I really will be fine. Apollo Justice is fine! Okay, Clay, now it's your turn. Okay. Clay Terran is fine! There you go! Now we're both fine! we're fine! We're fine! What are you laughing about? See? We're fine! You laughed first. I'm fine. You're fine. We're both fine. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Ha ha. Ha. Oh, at least they were fine. Thanks, Apollo. When you say it out loud, it really starts to feel real. And as long as you don't give up, you can keep on fighting. That's what we believed. As long as you don't give up. Wasn't there somebody else who said something similar? If I give in to my fear, I'll never find the truth. As long as I don't give up, I can keep up the fight. Clay called Mr. Starbuck his mentor and looked up to him. I wonder if I can be a good role model for my staff like Mr. Starbuck. Well, I'd say you already have. Apollo's regurgitated one or two things you've said once before, I think. Sorry, Mr. Wright, but I'll be taking a leave of absence. What? Wait! What do you mean by a leave? You're really serious? Can you at least give me a reason why? Oh, well this is just from that cutscene. Right, okay. I see. When I put Clay's jacket on, I swore to him that I would catch his killer myself. But that's our goal too! I agree with Athena. We should work together to find the truth. The truth, huh? That's a noble cause. But what if the truth you seek and the truth I seek turn out to be different? I'm not sure I follow. What are you saying, Apollo? I'm going to catch the person responsible for taking my friend's life, in my own way. Oh, I don't like the sound of that at all. The only way we could be seeking different truths is if one of our truths is false. Setting aside philosophy for a moment and saying that everyone can have different truths. I mean, the truth we're referring to here is which person killed who. I'm worried about you, Apollo. Take good care, Mr. Starbuck, for me. Now, I must be going. Goodbye. That means we have some more time pressure than usual. We gotta catch the killer before he does in his own way. Whatever that means. Very upsetting that he says that so soon after we had Aura say her whole spiel about it. I'd rather kill the killer myself. If something like that happened to me. Goodbye? Did he just say goodbye? I sensed a lot of seething anger and hatred coming from him. And also, suspicion. He's not walking out on us like this! I'm gonna go talk some sense into him! Hold on, Athena. Apollo can believe what he wants, but I believe he's wrong. Even if we take different paths, the truth we arrive at should be the same. I think the quicker we solve this case, the better it'll be for Apollo. Yeah. You're right, boss. Alright. That's enough for one day. Make sure you're ready for tomorrow's trial, okay? And I will try to do the same right now, but my, tensions are high. He really went way back to a memory lane, remembered all the good times with Clay, and it, awoke something in him. If he were here right now, Apollo would say, I'm fine. Everything is fine. I just hope things really do turn out fine tomorrow. As do I, but we are going to at least get into this trial now, and I'm so thrilled. We've had like 3 or 4 episodes of investigation, and it's been over a very long period of time because Pikmin 4 has thrown off our whole upload schedule. So, it has been months since our last good trial, and I am ready, so ready to get into it, and hopefully not fail too hard. December 20th, 10:15 a.m., District Court, courtroom number 5. Your Honor, where's the judge? Oh yeah, I still got my sweater. Yay. What is going on here? Oh, he's hiding or something? I suppose we should reconvene the trial of Solomon Starbuck or something? Objection! Your Honor? Could you please come out from under your bench? There are no more bombs. I promise. Right.
Yes, my apologies. I'm still a little jumpy when it comes to trials involving bombs. I mean, first the courtroom exploded, and then Mr. Tenate self-destructed.
I guess that's one way of describing what happened to Tenate.
Anyway, it seems that Mr. Justice was seriously wounded by Mr. Tenate's actions, so you, Mr. Wright, will be taking up the defense. Do you have an understanding of what has happened in the trial so far?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense is ready.
Very well. Is the prosecution also ready? I take it you'd like me to give the opening statement this time.
Looks like the judge has become a pretty good mind reader. Well, he's certainly seen more than his fair share of colorful prosecutors. You could say he's something of a veteran of sorts. Careful with your choice of words.
Let's see. In the previous part of this trial, we learned that the victim, Clay Terran, escaped from Launchpad 1 carrying the defendant, Solomon Starbuck.
My brain isn't right in the headspace of all that weird evidence we have so far, but I mean, just yet again, because it's been some time since the last trial sequence, but I know we had a lot of weird evidence, like this bullet that we found in a drain pipe, and then this other bullet hole over here, to name a few. All just matters what, Yuri Cosmos is going to say on the stand today, I suppose. And I suppose Aura will also be testifying at some point.
Escaped from Launchpad 1 carrying the defendant, Solomon Starbuck. There were explosions on the second floor of the Space Center and on the rocket itself. The two astronauts used the Launchpad 1 corridor to reach the boarding lounge.
And
how could the victim climb down the ladder if he was carrying the defendant? That was the mystery that needed to be solved. But Mr. Justice proved that the victim was killed in the boarding lounge. Prosecutor Blackwell, were you able to discover any new facts related to this point?
Upon further investigation, we discovered an oxygen tank fragment in the lounge. Athena spotted that. Surprisingly, it would appear that Justice Dono's argument was correct. So that means the testimonies of the first two people on the scene are suspect. There were two people who claimed to be the first on the scene. But can we truly trust their statements? Let's see. The two people were Detective Candace Arm and Yuri Cosmos, right? You think that one of them might have given a false statement to the police? Yes, it's certainly possible. You might have to do a little more digging. And just as our team was about to cross-examine Detective Arm, the courtroom bombing incident occurred, and the trial was put on hold.
That accursed fellow! He killed my witness! He killed Detective Arm!
He definitely put the kibosh on anyone asking her about what she saw.
Exactly. In other words, the question of who killed the victim in the boarding lounge has once again become the main focus of this trial.
It's obvious Prosecutor Blackwell still thinks it was Mr. Starbuck. Fulbright said that Blackwell has a thing against the astronaut. Nevertheless, I thought he said that they suspected he didn't think that Starbuck was the Phantom, but he had some other grudge against him. Is that right, or maybe I'm misremembering? The defense argues there was a third person in the lounge, and that's who killed the victim.
Objection! To make such reckless claims in a courtroom takes a bold man, or stupid one. There was no third person in the boarding lounge. Or have you gone dotty already? Old man.
Objection! We'll see who's the dotard after I trounce you with my years of experience, little boy. I started a whole lot on that, so it really lost its intimidation factor. In any case, Mr. Starbuck claims he saw someone leaving the lounge. Furthermore, a Space Center employee also saw a suspicious figure at the scene.
They saw a third person! So they claim.
I see my sister has been running her mouth. That's right. I almost forgot that Aura is Prosecutor Blackwell's sister. I definitely forgot, to be honest with you.
No matter, she didn't see this mystery person's face clearly. Therefore, there is no evidence to indicate that this person was not the defendant.
I guess the possibility that the figure was Mr. Starbuck is still there.
In brief, we need to determine if a third person was there or not. To this end, we should hear the testimony of one of the first people on the scene.
Director Cosmos, huh? This guy's sketchy one way or another, and we suspect it has something to do with the funding to the Space Center. He may not necessarily be the killer, but he's among the most sketchy people we've seen in this whole case so far, so I am damn near positive there's going to be like a blatant lie in his first testimony here.
Very well. Bailiff, please bring the witness to the stand.
Let's see this.
Why, I believe I've seen you before in the newspapers. Of course you have. Of course you have. For I am Yuri Cosmos. director of the Cosmos Space Center, which was, of course, named after me, Yuri Cosmos. Don't you have anything you wish to ask me?
Looks like he's all geared up to do some bragging.
7 years ago, I successfully launched the Hat One, and...
Everyone already knows how brilliant you are. Even I am trying to hold back my tears at seeing such a great man standing before me. So could you please proceed directly to your important testimony?
Real subtle, emotional manipulation, Blackwell. No one could have pulled that off but you. The power of suggestion is strong with this one.
I see this fine young lad as a proper appreciation of greatness. Then allow me to begin my epochal testimony that will be recorded in the annals of history.
That speech of Prosecutor Blackwell's just now, it sounded more to me like he was poking fun at Director Cosmos. It's probably for the best that it sailed right over the director's head. Yes, in the interest of time, I tend to agree.
Now then, Director Cosmos, the condensed version of your illustrious testimony, please.
We may yet get through 1 or 2 testimonies in this episode. Woohoo! Thrilled I am!
What I saw at the scene. Detective Arm and I rushed towards the boarding lounge together. We went via the control room and peeked in there from there to see what was going on inside. We saw a figure standing in the middle of the lounge and Terran lying on the floor.
You rushed in from the control room. Huh? That's the one that only you have fingerprint authorization for, correct? How curious. I imagine the fingerprint authorization is on all 3 doors, like you couldn't get in here from anyway without his fingerprint. I don't see what Cosmos gets out of having Starbuck take the fall yet either. But like I said, I'm sure the money comes into it somehow.
I hate to say it, but I can only imagine the standing figure must have been Starbuck. I see. So in your testimony, you claim you arrived on the scene after the 2 had escaped from the launch pad to the lounge, and just after the victim had been killed. Oh. All right. The humanity. But what I said is what I saw, and what I saw is what I said. Courageous action to take in the face of such terrifying explosions, wouldn't you say? To save my men, I went personally into the epicenter of danger. Ha ha! Risking my own life for theirs! Ha 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 ha!
Well, what do you know? It sounds like the director really cares about his men. Yeah, although it sounds more like he was scared and just had a peek from far away.
Here's the defense ready to cross-examine the witness.
Yes, Your Honor. Director Cosmos' testimony is pretty vague. I'm going to have to press him and draw out more information before I do anything else. I was thinking something similar myself. It was weird that he specifically said the one that was standing up must have been Starbuck. You would think he would have just said the one holding the lighter. Detective Arm and I rushed towards the boarding lounge together. We went via the control room and peeked in from there to see what was going on inside. We saw a figure standing in the middle of the lounge and Terran lying on the floor. How could you have seen that? It was that dark. I hate to say it, but I can only imagine the standing figure must have been Starbuck. Oh, I guess he's just saying as opposed to Terran on the floor, but you already said it was Terran. The place was dark at the time, right? Hence why you couldn't get a good look at the person? What do you think, Athena? Mr. Starbuck isn't the killer, and if that's true, then there must be a false statement in the director's testimony. Let's press his statements and draw the truth out of him. Good. Go and do that anyway. I think the one I most want to press on is this one here. If it was dark, how could you possibly know it was Terran? Hold it! So you couldn't see who that figure was clearly or what they were doing.
Sadly, the only thing I could tell was that it was a person, standing motionless.
The defendant, no doubt, staring aghast at his deed. What other explanation is there?
I'm so close, but without evidence, I can't prove that person's the third party.
I don't relish in this, and,
I hate to say it, but I can only imagine the standing figure must have been Starbuck. Hold it! Aura Blackwell also saw a suspicious figure in the lounge, but she gave the statement that it was too dark to see that person's face clearly. Did you see this figure's face clearly?
No, not clearly. The lighter they were holding illuminated the area around their feet at the time, but other than that, I could see little else.
What? They were holding a lighter? Like this? And it illuminated the ground, but not their face? How long were their arms? Was Faust the killer?
That's why I could see Terran, but I couldn't see who the other person was.
So for all you know, it might not have been Mr. Starbuck. Isn't that correct?
I would like to believe that. Starbuck isn't the type of man who's capable of murder.
Objection! When the witness entered the boarding lounge, there was no third person there. Isn't that correct, great Space Center Director?
Yes, that's right. Only Starbuck and Karen were there by that time.
When did you enter?
After we peeked in, the lounge suddenly went dark and the figure vanished.
You mean they disappeared? That's odd. Well, that means they turned off the lighter, I guess.
Objection! The reason the figure appeared to vanish was because it was also the defendant. When the witnesses weren't looking, he fell to the floor and feigned unconsciousness.
Hold it! Hold on. Director Cosmos, did you ever take your eyes off the scene?
Just for a brief instant. About as long as it takes for a shooting star to go by.
If you took your eyes off the scene, then this third person could have escaped during that time.
But what escape route could this person have used?
The direction opposite the control room, the southern door to the elevators. There's no security lock on that door, so it would have been possible to escape that way.
Objection! All things are possible, right, Dono? The real question is, do you have any proof?
Well...
If we're just talking possibilities, we could each profess whatever we'd like. An inmate who used to be a university professor and lunar researcher used to say that there is a kingdom of little green men who live under the surface of the moon.
As long as they don't punish us in the name of said moon for what we've done to it.
What I say, where's your proof that this quaint kingdom exists?
He's calling your theory a work of fiction, boss. And he's right, I don't have any proof yet. Still. The southern door was a possible escape route. I better make a mental note of that. And the Launchpad 1 corridor, the only prints we found on it were Starbucks, but if he was unconscious by that time, I guess it would have been difficult to do quickly, but in theory it is possible for someone in the dark to have taken off his glove, put his hand on the scanner, gone through, put the glove back on and threw him in there, and then gone back through to hide in the corridor. But then how would they have gotten out? I mean, I suppose it's possible to take like a swab of someone's prints or whatever, depending on your technology, but we have no evidence of such technology now, so let's just focus on what we do have. Director Cosmos, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
Why did you look away from the boarding lounge?
There's actually another tale of bravery behind the answer to that. It was when Detective Arm saw the figure and raised her gun. Being a great humanitarian and protector of mankind, I tried to stop her.
What? You're saying Detective Arm raised her gun as soon as she saw the figure?
I imagine her instincts as a detective told her they were the killer.
But a cop wouldn't just fire on any old civilian whose face they couldn't see because they might have been the killer. I don't know about that. And were you able to prevent Detective Arm from firing her gun?
I'm afraid I was too late. I was unable to stop her. She identified herself clearly, and then... she fired 2 warning shots at the shadowy figure.
Well, there's a few things strange about that. How could she have identified herself through a door? You guys said you were peeking in, so I assume you're looking through a window or something? Or did they just mean that the door was slightly ajar? How does a handprint scanner door that goes like... only opens slightly, and without them knowing you were there priorly? But also, obviously, 2 shots is unusual considering we only found 1 bullet hole, in spite of the fact that we did seem to find a bullet elsewhere in the room as well. It suggests that another bullet was in a person.
This information about Detective Arm's actions sounds critically important. Please add it to your testimony.
Please, indeed. Detective Arm fired 2 warning shots at the figure. I say we just put the bullet in a single bullet hole there. That seems fair, right? Objection! I almost said take that! That's the wrong thing! Are you sure you were really paying attention to what Detective Arm was doing?
You doubt my words? Won't it will someday be written down in history books?
Calm down. Somehow I don't think that those exact words will ever be written down in any history books. Except for the history of failures, but that's not a very nice book to be written in, so I didn't think you'd want to know that.
Mr. Wright, could you please explain yourself so that we can all understand?
You see that Detective Arm fired 2 warning shots, and yet only 1 bullet hole was ever found at the scene. This is a classic Ace Attorney solve here.
What?
Only 1 bullet hole means the gun was only fired once, and yet Director Cosmos is saying Detective Arm fired 2 shots. No editor would allow such a glaring contradiction in a history book.
Objection! Unfortunately for you, the witness's words are true. We confirm that 2 shots were fired from Detective Arm's gun.
Objection! But there was only 1 bullet hole at the scene. Where did the other bullet hole vanish to? Ah!
You should know the answer to that already.
I should.
During the previous trial, a certain oxygen tank was presented as evidence. We've already discussed that it was ruptured in the lounge, have we not? Well, it appears that the thing that ruptured it was a bullet. And where did that bullet end up?
You're saying that it exploded and it went and landed in the drain? I suppose that's technically possible. Or not the drain, but the little vent thing.
A bullet that was found near the tank, to be precise. This bullet was fired from a .38 caliber gun, the same caliber as the detective's gun.
How near to the tank was that found? It bears some resemblance to the crush marks on this one. Is it the same bullet? No, a .38 caliber gun, whereas this is a tinier one, suggesting that there were 3 shots fired in this room, perhaps. What? Oxygen tank data updated in the court record. The victim's oxygen tank was struck by a bullet.
The rifling marks also match up. There's no question that the bullet was fired from Detective Arm's gun.
Right, but this is all the same. Gotcha. The plot thickens? Alright, I'm interested. I'm very curious how this is going to end up. Bullet from Arm's gun also added to the court record. Very cool. I mean, not cool because, you know, bullets and guns kill people. But cool that that's more evidence.
Rifling marks. They're like a gun's fingerprints on a bullet, correct? And examining the rifling marks on a bullet can tell if the gun it was fired from.
One of the bullets the detective fired found its way into the holographic image display. The other bullet came to a stop near the victim's oxygen tank.
Near the victim's oxygen tank? You mean after it hit it and exploded, I guess.
The evidence confirms the director's statement that the detective fired 2 shots.
My beautiful contradiction. Gone. All gone. So that bullet hole was from a .38 caliber, huh? I better update the court record. Right. Suggesting that our tiny little 10 caliber one was fired for some other purpose, somehow else. Or left there intentionally to distract for some reason or something. It implies something funky is going on.
Very good. Now that we know the fate of both of the shots Detective Arm fired. Mr. Wright, does that clear up all of your questions?
No. Detective Arm fired 2 warning shots. One hit the holographic display and the other hit the oxygen tank. Does that really clear up everything about what happened at the scene? No, it doesn't. No, Your Honor, it doesn't. Detective Arm fired 2 warning shots from a .38 caliber gun, but that doesn't explain the existence of a certain piece of evidence found at the scene. A piece that points to the existence of a third person.
Oh?
Very well, but it won't do to keep us waiting, Mr. Wright. What piece of evidence suggests the possibility of a third person at the scene?
Take that! Ow! And what is this metal pellet supposed to be? I didn't hit the history button. Go away. Just a little something of great importance we found at the scene, Your Honor.
You found it where?
In a floor gutter at the crime scene. It looks like the police and the prosecution both missed it. Furthermore, this is a 10 caliber bullet, making it much smaller than one of Detective Arm's .38 calibers.
Then that means...
A different gun was fired, suggesting a third person. Exactly. One more person must have been there in the lounge. A third person who had a gun that could fire 10 caliber bullets. Interesting. You think that if Yuri was really had a Starbucks best interest at heart and didn't want to do this to him, he wouldn't have been so pained by that just then. And if that's true, that explains why Detective Arm fired warning shots. This third person fired at Detective Arm and Conductor Cosmos with their gun. And in return, the detective fired her warning shots. Isn't that how it really went down, Director Cosmos?
It looks like you've deduced my miraculous tale of survival. Yes, you're absolutely correct. The mystery person fired the bullets.
What is now?
I lied my ass off. In other words...
What? You never breathed a word of any of this to me before.
Well, all great men have a secret or two, don't you know?
Foolish old geezer. So Director Cosmos really has been hiding the presence of a third person all along. Director Cosmos, I want you to testify to the court about what you really saw.
You may be a very great man, but in my courtroom you're just another witness. You won't receive special treatment here. Now please, give accurate testimony.
Second testimony, here we go. We're at a good pace here.
What I really saw at the scene. Detective Arm and I rushed to the control room together. In the lounge we saw a figure standing in the middle of the room and Terran on the floor. We were still in the control room to the east when the figure fired at us.
That's all?
Given that there was no third person in the lounge when the witness entered it, does this mean the person who fired the gun had to have been the defendant?
Not necessarily. It's still possible that it was someone else. Most likely, as soon as Detective Arm and Director Cosmos discovered this person, they escaped through the southern door, and the one that didn't have a security lock.
Objection!
Objection! Double-edged swords are a tricky lot. Mishandle one, and it is you who are cut down.
You love bringing up double-edged swords. Why don't you talk about like a Zweihander at some point or something? I mean, samurai, I guess you don't wield such things, but... There are other swords!
Huh?
Your reasoning could apply if Space Boy were the killer as well. Think about it. After being discovered, he could have fired the 10 caliber gun. Detective Arm would have responded by firing 2 warning shots. All he had to do was feign unconsciousness to invent the possibility of a third person.
Objection! Then why wasn't the gun found on him? But Mr. Starbuck didn't have a gun in his possession when he was found by the police. Nor has the gun been found at the crime scene. Its absence can only be explained if there was a third party who took it with them.
Objection! Recall the existence of a trash chute in the boarding lounge. The defendant could have simply thrown the gun down the chute.
Objection! But you can't deny the possibility of a third person leaving with a weapon. And where's that photograph we have, by the way? That Blackwell was so intent on before. It shows the trash chute as being empty. Closed, rather, empty. We don't know how easy it is to open. What if maybe this dial is what opens the trash chute? No idea. It's very prominently in the shot, so I have to imagine it's important. But you can't deny the possibility of a third person leaving with the weapon.
Objection! The hell I can't. Don't tell me what I can and can't do. It's up to you to prove that possibility. And I trust you haven't forgotten my little piece of decisive evidence.
Which one? Who? What evidence?
Why, the detonator switch that was found in Mr. Starbuck's pocket, naturally.
Totally forgot.
The most compelling evidence of all that tells us he is the culprit.
Ah! I did forget all about that.
Look, your baldness, how deliciously obvious it is that they lack the evidence to rival mine.
Wow. He sliced our third person theory to ribbons and served it to us, just like that. I mean, he didn't. He just said that Dude Man had a detonator in his pocket. If there was a third person, it's very, very easy for them to slip it into his pocket. But yes, I'd like that back in the courtroom record, please.
Yes, well, I have a question of my own, actually. That bullet that the mysterious figure shot, what did it hit exactly? It hit me.
Then how did it end up in the little thing?
So does that mean you're a ghost?
I was wondering when you would realize that your baldness. Director Cosmos is an authentic, bona fide ghost. He can even pass through walls.
Ah!
Objection!
Objection! Basket Blackwell! Shame on you for teasing the nice old gentleman.
Your baldness, it was all in jest. Please show yourself again.
Are you sure? In that case, how did you manage to survive being shot, Director Cosmos? I'm glad you asked. It was a miracle befitting a great history-making figure such as myself. The bullet hit my glorious Medal of Honor, whereby it ricocheted, thus saving my life.
All the way to the other side of the room? I suppose it does sort of look like a bullet hit this one star here.
What?
Chatter, chatter. Discuss, discuss. Doubt, doubt. That's unbelievable. I have to check this out. Oh wow, look at that. There's one extra Yaxa star. The odds are literally astronomical. I guess it really was a miracle. It's beginning to really feel like the Cosmos is watching out for Director Cosmos.
But why did you conceal this information, Director Cosmos? A great man, such as myself, has to hide things on occasion, no matter how much it hurts. It is the plight of the truly great. It may be hard for this generation to understand.
Yes, I confess myself having a very difficult time understanding. I don't know, but it sounds fishy to me. What else is he hiding? Let's just cross-examine him and see what we can find out. Yes, please, some more testimony then.
Now then, Mr. Wright, your cross-examination, please.
Oh yeah, we didn't even cross-examine this thing. He was just like, I got shot. Only 3 points, right? What I really saw at the scene. Detective Arm and I rushed to the control room together. In the lounge, we saw a figure standing in the middle of the room and Terran on the floor. We were still in the control room to the east when the figure fired at us. I suppose I can present that the bullet was found in along the south wall because, he told us it ricocheted, but it's not part of his testimony. But let's just see what Athena has to say. Okay, so Director Cosmos is in the control room to the east, and while he was there, he was shot at by someone with a 10 caliber gun. But the bullet hit his metal, so he was able to escape with his life. He's a very lucky man. No wonder people think he's great. Hey, I'm pretty lucky myself, so he's a great man, then I'm the king of all cosmos. Does that make Apollo the lonely rolling star? She's got a good point. He's got a good point, rather, Athena. He has survived a lot of stuff he really should not have. My man is just built different. The Anything in Wright Anything agency stands for I will survive anything to defend you in court. Right, but Athena clearly was trying to bring our attention to the fact that they were on opposite sides. The bullet was fired at and then found on the opposite side of the room. Objection! Director Cosmos, I believe you are telling this great court a glorious lie.
A great man like me? Tell a lie? Have you ever heard of such a thing in all of history?
I mean, yeah, many great men in history were actually not that good people. Good and great have different connotations. My accusation is based on the positions of the people who were in the lounge. According to your testimony, you and Detective Arm were near the control room door, and the mystery figure was standing in the middle of the boarding lounge. If, as you say, the figure fired a gun at you from this position, then the bullet would have traveled in this direction, northeast. However, we found the 10 caliber bullet here. It's a pretty far ricochet, you gotta admit. Oh! This trajectory and where the bullet was actually found contradict each other. Director Cosmos, where were you really when you were being shot at? Or where was this mystery person? Or where did they shoot? That's not the only thing that could be wrong there. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the human merry-go-round. Objection!
Don't tell me you've forgotten already. Didn't the witness himself just tell you? The bullet hit his metal. Of this, there is no mistake.
Objection! But in that case, the bullet should have been found near the east side of the room. Are you trying to say that you can explain this inconsistency?
No, of course.
I didn't think so. What?
Oh, great Director Cosmos.
Yes? Is there something you'd like me to expound upon?
You were in fact not in the control room to the east, were you? You were looking into the lounge from the door to the south. Is that not right?
Weird then that Aura didn't see you. What are you getting at?
Use your own brain. Your head must have some use other than housing that bird's nest.
Bird's nest? Why does everyone pick on my hair? I know, right? It looks cool.
Director Cosmos and the detective witnessed the scene from the southern door. The killer fired at them there, and that is why the bullet was found in the south.
Is it possible for Arm to have hit the holographic screen from there? I guess so. This is the holographic screen, isn't it? The third pane. So you could fire it up in there. That's gotta throw something else off, right? I mean, I suppose I still find it weird that then Aura didn't see even the silhouette of them, but... As I said, it was pretty dark. No, but if you were outside, daylight would be streaming into the room. So, horse plot. That makes some sense, actually.
Also, the witness being at the southern door is rather favorable for the prosecution.
Huh? I've got a bad feeling about this. I just stammered in my own mental line.
How about it, Director? If you don't tell the truth this time...
Yikes! His handcuffs!
Yeah, get used to it. No one cares if the prisoner is not handcuffed around here. You will become but rust upon my sword. I relish a chance to cut down a great man.
All right. I'll tell the truth. Put your sword away. You are correct. I, the great Fury Cosmos, was looking into the room from the southern door.
What? That's the complete opposite of all the testimony he's given so far. Who could have seen that coming?
And now you have lost your possibility that a third person was in the room.
I have? How?
The director and the detective were near the southern door, meaning that the killer couldn't have escaped through there. The western door required print recognition. The corridor beyond was filled with smoke. I had forgotten that it was all smoky. The only escape route left was the eastern control room door, and the only way to get through there was with Director Cosmos' fingerprints.
Is the trash chute like an incinerator, or could a person fit down there and survive, is what I want to know.
In short, there would be no escape for any third person who had there been one.
My third person just disappeared, like in one of Trucy's magic tricks. I'm not convinced. I want to know more about that trash chute. It seems so pivotal.
Order! Order in the court! Director Cosmos, why did you tell such an outrageous lie?
You were covering for the defendant, isn't that right?
Yes. It was all for the love of my men. If I said I was in the eastern control room, it would mean the culprit could have escaped through the southern door. It would have meant that there could have been a third person.
But you would never, in that case, you would have just testified that they left. And that you saw a third person. Remember, you're the one person who can testify about this now that Candace Arm's dead. So that's a complete and bald-faced lie. If that was really your intention, you would have just testified there was a third person from the start, and no one would have been able to refute it.
Yes, all I wanted to do was protect Starbuck. I said I was in the control room to invent an escape route for a third person.
What a convoluted lie. Was he really covering for the defendant?
It looks like we've come to a conclusion that the defense's argument, the possibility of a third person, has crumbled.
No!
It's over.
Yikes. The judge is about to hand down his verdict. Think, Phoenix, think. This is the perfect time to try and turn my thinking around. If a third person had no way of escaping the scene, then what if one of the people at the scene was this third person? Yuri Cosmos. But I still maintain that we don't know enough about the trash chute to know if it was, like, escapable or not. Wait. What if the whole premise is all wrong? Director Cosmos said that he and Detective Arm rushed to the scene together. But what if that premise isn't true? Right, she wouldn't be able to dispute that, so anything he says about Candace Arm's whereabouts could be called into question. What if one of them reached the scene before the other one? And if that person entered the lounge, then they would be the third person.
The defendant is the only one who could have killed the victim and shot at the director. There doesn't appear to be any room for argument against his claims.
Aha! That actually makes a lot of sense, because if Cosmos got to the scene through the control room, because he has access there, and he fired at Candace when she came in from the southern door, the bullet would have ended up where we found it, and if she had shot at him while he was running away or something... Okay, so sure. Yuri Cosmos is standing there over the body, Candace Arm rushes on there and says, freeze. Cosmos pulls out his little not a minigun, but a miniature gun, goes pew at Candace Arm, flubs it, shot hits the wall beside her. She then fires at him. First one, she fires a warning shot. It hits the holographic screen. He starts to run. She fires at him again. It hits the badge. Well, he would be turned around at that point, so I guess that the badge one had to happen first. And she just missed the second one and hit the holographic screen. That would explain why the bullet was found right in the center of the room next to the air tank. Because Blackwell said it was found near the air tank, not in the air tank. Found near the victim's oxygen tank. If it was the thing to rupture it, you would think it would be found inside. Although I guess it would explode outward. It doesn't matter. So that suggests that something else ruptured the tank once again. But that's a totally plausible. And then he, of course, escapes through the control room because he has access to that and Arm does not. That's a very interesting picture we've formulated here.
There doesn't appear to be any room for argument against these claims. I will now render my verdict. Objection!
Please wait, Your Honor. There is still one possibility.
Oh? This had better be good, Mr. Wright.
There is one and only one person who could have escaped from the scene. And that person would be the first person who arrived on the scene. And then upon entering the boarding lounge, the second person to arrive came by the southern door. That's why the first person fled from the room, using an escape route that was accessible only to them. And the only such thing that fits the description is the thing that's coded only to Yuri Cosmos.
Very well, let's hear more about this theory. Who is the one person who could have escaped from the boarding lounge?
That would be Cosmos, Your Honor.
Take that! What? But that's... Mr. Wright, what are you claiming here?
Of all the people who were at the scene, only the witness could have escaped. The director is the only one with the authority to open the control room door, after all.
But that means...
Exactly. The true identity of the third person is our current witness. Director Yuri Cosmos!
What?
What?
Chatter, chatter, gobble, gobble. Blah, 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 blah.
Mr. Wright, order in this court, I say. Mr. Wright, you will explain yourself in more detail next time on Ace Attorney Dual Destinies, because we are way over time all of a sudden. My God, man! Keep your explanations a little faster next time, won't you?
Yes, I'm afraid that is all the time we have for this time, but I'm glad that actually came into play, because that was a thing we had thought about when we were on the scene and looking at that room. I remember finding that so suspicious that they were like, by the way, only the director can operate this, and it's one of 3 means of outgress from the room. Exgress? Whatever's the opposite of ingress. Of course, that was way too early. That was only our third contradiction, the only second testimony and then a point after that to throw out. So that's way too early for us to actually be cornering the killer this early. So even if it is Cosmos, although I'm slightly dubious. We don't have him yet for sure. Something else is going to come in and throw a wrench in it all. Although Cosmos does, beyond all reason, seem incredibly sus. But that's all for now. Next week on the channel is going to be some more Pikmin 4, and next time here we'll be carrying on with this. Who knows how far we shall get, but we are carrying on at a blazing pace and haven't lost any health yet. This case is going well for us. Maybe able to get through yet another deathless case, much like the school one. Well, deathless aside from the victim. But that's all, so thank you so very much for coming around. Hopefully I will see you around. Admiral's gonna be out of here now. Peace! So surely the pink Pikmin, being that they can fly, can just fly it right back home, right? Since we gathered enough of them, they're not gonna fly up to the door and then start spinning around, right? That would be ridiculous and silly game design, right? They would never do that to us because Pikmin is lovely, right?
Are you kidding me? Just go around!
Right, well, that's silly, but